In this video, I'm hanging out with my buddy Craig Migliaccio, riding around in the van, going to check out our scrapyard, of all things, and we wanted to talk about the skills and knowledge that are required to get started successfully in the field. So whether you're just starting school, maybe just leaving school, starting your first job, or maybe you're skipping school altogether and just going straight to work, these are some things you can do to help ensure your success. As always, to find out more about everything Craig has to offer, go to acservicetech.com, and big thanks to him for being willing to hang out and share his knowledge. Craig and I are riding out to take a look at the fabled Kalo scrapyard, which is actually an aircraft salvage yard in addition to being a scrapyard. But while we're driving, we thought we would cover some topics that are often requested. And one of the ones that you had brought up yesterday was kind of the difference between, not the difference, but skills and knowledge. So what are the skills, attributes, knowledge that somebody should have? We'll start there. Somebody should have who's entering the field in order to be successful, and then we'll kind of go into maybe some of the skills and knowledge that are needed for advancement. What's some of the low-hanging fruit that you think of?
Some of the low-hanging fruit, I think one of the biggest things is knowing your sheet metal tools and being able to make cuts straight, no barbs. So you gotta be able to show your basic tool skills. You could even go further than that and just real basic stuff, how to hammer a nail, how to use a cordless drill. I mean, I know that sounds real basic, but you'd be surprised at how many people end up getting hired, and it ends up being a disappointment to the employer that they talked a good game, but they really didn't show up ready to work. So you have those basic skill sets of being able to screw a screw in, hammer nails in without bending nails, just those general things. And then you move on to skill sets like sheet metal and gas piping and those types of skills. But basically you have your tin snips, your sheet metal brakes, you have your crimpers. The big thing with tin snips, just making sure that you don't have any barbs. You can cut a nice straight line. Your measurement tool, you got your tape measure just ready, all your fractions. And so that's a huge skill. So really, if you have all this knowledge about refrigerant charging and all kinds of in-depth knowledge, but you have zero tool skills,
right,
it's a scary situation. I mean, what are you going to do with that as an employer? It's a hard thing to overcome. And so I really just encourage everybody to practice at home, or whatever you need to do. Buy a sheet of sheet metal, practice, cutting this stuff out, and anything that you could possibly do. Take a night school course ahead of time, do something.
I think one thing that we've got to get over in the trade is this word should, where people will come into school or whatever and they say, well, you should already know that.
Right.
Well, it doesn't matter what someone should already know, or it doesn't matter what somebody should already be able to do based on our experience. What matters is what they can do and what they do know. And if we have a generation of kids coming up today that don't have those basic mechanical skills that maybe we learned in, from our dads or from shop class or from our grandparents or whatever, then unfortunately we've got no choice but to encourage them to learn those skills either on their own or help provide them a context to do that, which is actually something. This is a completely separate subject, but at some point I would like to get more involved with it, kind of starting even before you get into the trade, with helping people learn basic mechanical skills. But frankly, before I sound too cocky, I want to be really clear that if you watched me cut sheet metal, you would think this guy doesn't belong in the trade because sheet metal is not something I'm good at. But I think even further back from sheet metal is whatever tools are going to need to be applied in the region that you're in, the type of work you want to do, you have to start further back with really basic principles. And so that may be things like using a table saw, how to use a reciprocating saw or a miter saw, how to, like you said, use a drill, how to position your body appropriately when you're cutting in order to prevent you from hurting yourself. All those sorts of things are really big, and for somebody who wants to come into the trade who doesn't have those mechanical aptitude skills, you got to start. And that would mean things like working on your car. That would mean things like looking up some YouTube videos and doing some things around the house that maybe you wouldn't normally take on, because you're not going to go from doing nothing to being a skilled tradesperson. You have to take some of those intermediate steps.
Yeah, absolutely. Something like an instance of going up in the attic or going in a crawl space. Of course, here in Florida, you have a lot of slabs. Where I'm at in New Jersey, there's a lot of not slabs and a lot of crawl spaces. And so you really want to get in there and crawl around and see, hey, is this somewhere where I want to be putting my body?
Right.
You want to kind of get used to those types of situations and kind of be aware of what's happening. You can look around and see even where the load-bearing parts of the building are by looking down in the crawl space. Up in the attic, you hire somebody and you expect them to kind of be aware of where they're locating their body at, and all of a sudden they step through the sheetrock and cause you a bunch of damage to the building that you as the employer need to fix. So, even to those basic skill sets, just be aware of how it's built, how the building's built. You go up in the attic and they might not have subfloor up in the attic.
Right.
You might just have joists and the back of sheetrock is brown. So you may not know that that's sheetrock, but that's really what it is, and there's no load-bearing capacity there. You step on that, you're going through. Just anything that you could possibly do to get your basic tools, your basic tool knowledge, like you said, working on cars, anything, to try to get mechanically inclined, because you could be the right person for the job, for the career, but maybe you just didn't, like you said, maybe you didn't grow up in a household that taught you those types of skills, or maybe you didn't have a grandparent or something like that maybe you just never got shown these skills, but you have the right mentality and the right drive. You just need to work on those basic skill sets and awareness.
Yeah. A big thing I want to point out is that mentality of hard work, the mentality of being a problem solver, the mentality of enjoying working with your hands and solving mechanical problems. Those are the things that are the most important long term.
Yeah.
But you do have to bridge this gap. I was telling Craig yesterday that I was not a natural born tradesperson at all. I just grew up in a trades family, in a mechanical family, and so through immersion I developed enough skills and enough knowledge to be able to get that opportunity. But it was funny. This is a complete out of nowhere. But one of the techs I worked with when I was really new to the trade, when I was 18, 19 years old, shared some photos of a chiller that he was tearing apart, and I haven't seen him in years. And his name's Gary Lightcap. So Gary, if you're watching this, I'm talking about you. I joked around. I said, "Man, this is a long way from installing a ductless system or a mini split with you on a sunbank years and years ago." And this was when these were not common at all. And the reason I mentioned that, because I knew he would remember it, is when we were pulling the condenser up to the roof, because we were just roping it up, which is a silly thing to do, but that's what we did. It slipped. Well, I had rigged it. I had rigged it wrong. I don't know what I did, but I tied it poorly, and it slipped to the extent that he had to grab it right before it was about to come over the parapet, and he just caught it and muscled it up. And so his response to my little comment there was, he said, "Yeah, I remember you were no help at all, and you almost killed me." So the point being that you can still make it in this trade, even if you aren't supernatural, even if you don't have a lot of experience, but you do need to immerse yourself in some of those basic skills. You do need to know how to swing a hammer. You do need to know how to use a set of shears. You do need to know how to, if you're in a ductboard market, for example, how to use a duct knife and how to measure and how to lay out ductwork, how to attach flex, simple stuff like that. If you're the type of person who's never changed the oil in your car in your life, go ahead and do that. If you're the type of person who wouldn't know how to put on a spare tire on your car if you broke down the side of the road, you might want to go ahead and start doing that. Those are nice life skills anyway, and not because you're less of a person if you don't, because you're not, but because getting used to solving those mechanical problems in your day-to-day is going to make you a better air conditioning technician or installer.
Yeah. So I want to say this, that you can bridge this gap. So you may not have all the skills built up already. You might not be aware of everything that you're going to need, but you can bridge this gap by hard work and diligence. I mean, some people, they think, "Oh, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not this enough, or whatever." The reality is, if you have diligence and you are a hard worker, you can get through this. It means a lot to be, there on time. And when I mean on time, I mean before time. Right. And if you're willing to stay after, whatever needs to happen, if you are quick with getting a tool and running, kind of coming back, if you show that work ethic, that means a lot.
Right.
And it's hard. You can't really necessarily teach that. You can try to and encourage somebody to maybe break a bad pattern, but if you have that right there, that does help to try to make up for some of the skill sets that maybe are lacking and that you're trying to improve on your own. And of course, you can try to improve the knowledge aspect, at night with just reading and looking at YouTube videos or all of those types of things. But yeah, practice yourself. I remember, going into the job interview for the second HVAC company I worked for, and I was thrilled that he was thinking that I was older than what I was, I guess, and so that was awesome, because I'm like, all right, well that shows some maturity or whatever, in reference to how how you dress, how you present yourself, right. and that you're concerned about, your future in the company, and you're exhibiting that, and you are showing hard work and asking the right questions, wanting to learn.
And so I think a big part of it is that you have that maturity that people can smell on you.
Yes.
They smell maturity. My residential general manager and I talk a lot about hiring and best practices, and we talk about whether or not somebody is an adult. If somebody seems like an adult, meaning that they don't need mommy to get them out of bed, they don't need other people to constantly tell them what to do in terms of just regular life skills, that in and of itself nowadays is like over 50% of the way there. Then you add in the mindset of wanting to work hard and enjoying working hard, not it doesn't bother you if you got to break a sweat. You're not looking for just the next break. Not that you're trying to kill yourself, and I think a lot of people get this wrong. The best tradespeople I know, they do take breaks. They do watch after their body, but they do that not because they just can't wait for the next break. They do it because they want to do the job the best they can and they want to provide for their families. But they actually have chosen to enjoy their work, which I think is enormous. Let's transition into talking about the knowledge that you should have coming in, though. What are some things that maybe if you want to go into trade school, you want to get into the trade, what are some basic things you should have pretty solid?
First off, I do want to just back up even a hair more, which is the company that you're trying to that you're interviewing with, that you're trying to get hired for. Do some research on that company.
Yeah.
Try to figure out who they are, what's going on, know some things about the company first before you walk in the door.
Yeah.
Have some respect for what you're really trying to get involved in, and hey, do your research to see if it's the company that you want to be.
Right.
But in reference to basic knowledge, you want to be able to understand what types of HVACR systems are out there in a building as best as you can. The components inside the system is going to be a little harder up front, but if you are starting to understand, what a split system is, or the difference between a heat pump and an air conditioner, those are some of the quick skill sets, which side the supply is on, which side the return is on an HVAC unit, because you're going to be there helping somebody do a replacement, or an installation, and you want to be able to understand the tool terminology. If we need certain tools from the truck, what a vacuum pump is versus a recovery machine, and you're not confusing the two. Compound gauge set versus a digital gauge set, whatever it may be. But in reference to the equipment is the big thing here, and knowing the difference between a return and a supply, even a return grill and a supply register, those types of things are crucial to the best of your knowledge. Basically, you want to go around any of these homes that you're visiting or whatever, walk around, look at what they have and where the registers are located at. Are the supply registers on the inside wall or the outside wall? Well, they should be towards the outside of the building typically, and then you're going to have the return grills closer in towards the inside. You're going to notice things like the thermostat. That's going to be on an interior wall. You want to start noticing some patterns so that you can move quickly. You have an idea of what the lead installation or lead service tech is talking about before they say it, basically. But just try to be aware of the systems themselves.
Yeah, I think going into a career, and again, we're talking to a lot of different people here. We're talking to some people who have already been through school. We're talking to some people who are going to end up working for a company with no traditional education at all, and we're talking to people who are going to be going into school. So, you know, 3 different kind of categories of people. But regardless of which one of those you are, you want to go in having a really good grasp of the terminology and some of the basic system infrastructures. And the idea that a lot of people have that you can't know those things until you work, that is completely incorrect. You can know all of this stuff without having to buy anything, without having to go to school, without having to have worked in the trade. The knowledge part is the easy part for somebody who's new, because you can go onto Craig's channel, you can go onto the Engineering Mindset, you can go onto HVAC School, you can watch Chris Stevens on HVACR videos, and if you spend, I don't know, a good 40 hours just watching videos and then reviewing what you have in your own home, let alone anywhere else, you're going to know what an air handler is. You're going to know what an evaporator coil is and what it does. You're going to know what a condenser is and what it does. You're going to know what a compressor is and what it does. You're going to know the different types of metering devices. You're going to know a gauge manifold, all that sort of thing. And when you go in to interview for a job or to start school, you're going to be so far ahead that it's not even a joke. I mean, you're going to have that knowledge that even if you stumble the first time you're hooking up your gauges, or you struggle with cutting sheet metal a little bit, you're going to get a lot more grace because you at least know what all this stuff means and what its significance is. So I would strongly suggest that, and I would also suggest that if you have an impulse that you feel like you can't do that, like you need somebody to hold your hand, in the words of Bob Newhart, stop it. Because you don't, you don't need somebody to hold your hand in order to learn. If you do fall into a pattern of always thinking that you need somebody to show you in order for you to know things, you're going to be behind the 8 ball your entire career. But if you can get ahead of that, and yes, it's great to have people show you. It's absolutely necessary to get hands-on tools and to have experiences in the trade yourself. But you can get really, really far ahead on the knowledge side of at least understanding how the things work, and you'll find that it's so much easier.
Yeah, there's something to be said about being hungry, and being hungry means that you are going after it yourself and not waiting for somebody else to give it to you, to force feed it to you. I mean, those are the kind of people where you when an employer says this employee is just not getting it, I don't understand why they're not going out of their way to like understand what this stuff means and does. Like Brian was saying, it's free right there for you. You just have to go after it and put the time in. It's really a matter of time and being hungry and wanting to learn, writing your notes down, trying to study, material that you have that is mainly free access. But, there are steps that you can take to gain that understanding, and looking at the HVAC system at your house and your, not your neighbors, but like maybe your family and different stuff.
Sneak into your neighbor's house when they're not home.
Look into the windows, check out their HVAC system, see where the registers are.
Locksmithing is also a great skill to learn, so if you need to learn that in order to...
There's something to be said. I mean, really, and Brian hit it on the head. If you have the hungry desire to want to learn and a hard-working effort like that you display constantly, that is 50% of the way there. You will make up much more than whoever your competition is, in order to get that job just by your sheer tenacity. That is definitely something that's important. So just go after it. All I can say is go after it hard, and you can get it. This is something that I always said in the high school, even with the high school students, for when I'm teaching HVACR. It does not matter how smart you are, how smart people say you are. It's more of a matter of your desire to want to learn. That is it. And I mean, that is it. If you want to learn it, you will. I mean, there's no stopping it.
There's so many sports metaphors here. I'll try to stay away from mixed metaphors, but if any of you who enjoy sports or anything like that, you don't have to be the quickest, strongest, fastest in order to be good at, enjoy, and be rewarded by a sport. If that was the case, I would never be able to play anything because I'm slow and fat and weak. So, there you go. Okay, maybe I shouldn't play sports. Maybe that's what it comes down to. But the point being that anybody can do well. You may not be the world's best, but who needs to be the world's best? You just stick with it, And the one thing that to younger people, if you are younger and you're listening to this, recognize this takes time. Like, you're not going to go in and have a good attitude for a day and have, get the job and then everything's smooth sailing. This is going to take years of dedicated effort and having that mindset day in and day out. So you have to have a longer view of your career rather than just expecting that you're going to do it for a short period of time and it's all going to come naturally. It will be a grind sometimes, but you have to take that longer view in order to make it work.
My first company that I worked there for 3 months, and I had to check myself and see, hey, am I working hard enough for them to teach me, or is it me? So basically, am I working hard enough for them to teach me, or are they just not teaching me in general? And are they afraid that if I know more, then I'm going to get the raise and they're not? I mean, that's silliness.
Right.
That
stuff does happen.
Yeah,
it does happen in some organizations.
And that's exactly why I ended up leaving that particular company. But like Brian said, it's not going to come within a week. It's not going to come within 2 weeks. You're not going to get all this massive respect or anything like that. You have to work for it. It doesn't come. It doesn't just come. Yeah. So, you might need to take a step and go to a different company or whatever, but I just recommend that you really highly check yourself to make sure that it's not you and you're not maybe displaying enough effort and maybe you're not going after it yourself and trying to learn on your own. You will get there. Just be patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple points. One, if you lack mechanical skills, practice some of this basic stuff we've talked about. 2, if you lack the knowledge, then get it before you go into the job. And 3, go ahead and buy Craig's book before you start, because then you'll have a real leg up. So remind everybody how they can do that.
That's over at acservicetech.com, and we have our book there, which is preparing a system for refrigerant, checking the charge, how the systems work in reference to the refrigerant flowing through there, and troubleshooting. So we have that in a 1,000-question workbook that we designed to be for those that are hungry in the field. So you can self-check. It comes with an answer key, so you can check your knowledge. And we also have quick reference cards that you can use in the field. We've got posters. I would love to see those in the classrooms. And we've got PowerPoints for HVACR teachers. And we have all of our videos over on YouTube and Brian's as well. And make sure you check all of that out. So,
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Craig. Appreciate
you.
it. Yep, we're here. So we got another video coming.
All
right.
Thanks for watching our video. If you enjoyed it and got something out of it, if you wouldn't mind hitting the thumbs up button to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the notifications bell to be notified when new videos come out. HVAC School is far more than a YouTube channel. You can find out more by going to hvacrschool.com, which is our website and hub for all of our content, including tech tips, videos, podcasts, and so much more. You can also subscribe to the podcast on any podcast app of your choosing. You can also join our Facebook group if you want to weigh in on the conversation yourself. Thanks again for watching.